Hi guys, and welcome to another pedal preservation video. And up on the stand we have a very dirty Saracen, and I do like my Saracens, but I don't like them this dirty. This came into the bike library and there would be a lot of work. We may not turn this one around, so I thought, you know what, let's not make sure it goes to waste. I got it out of the rack, I've taken it home, and I'm going to restore it here, and then we're going to take it back to the library and let someone else enjoy the second life of this bike. Before we move forward, just like to say we're almost at the 1,000 subscriber count. If you could just help me just push over the mark, it would be absolutely awesome. So just subscribe, obviously like, and a comment down below. If you watched the last video, you see anything I'm getting wrong, better ways of doing it, just drop it in the comments, or just drop it in the comments and say hi. Anything, all good content, or all good for the algorithm. So let's well, first thing I'm going to do with this bike, I'm going to give it a damn good wash. Right, commencing teardown. Oh, now expect a lot. Oh, not used to using V-brakes, so I haven't disconnected them. I'm expecting a lot of tight things on this bike. I think we may actually get a bit of a pleasant surprise on this one, because I'm noticing, albeit all corroded and tight, everything seems to be working. I think we're going to be dealing mainly with corrosion, and one great thing is the forks still work fine as well. So without question, I am going to be renewing all the cables, so there's going to be no problem doing this. Well, a big shout out to all the guys that commented on my rally video, the last video. Probably comments per views is definitely my highest yet, because everyone had loads of great advice, absolutely piling it through. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that, and your continuing support. Of course, we're getting ever a bit closer to the 1,000 subscriber count. Of course, once again, I've forgotten to take the chain off. Right, let's quickly just get the chain off of this. This chain is actually okay. It's sitting probably about the sort of 50 to 75% wear. We could, I'll be honest with you, we could just use it again, but I think I'm going to put a new chain on it, because this bike's going to be going back to the library, and when things are a wee bit borderline, we just like to put the new bits on. Although it looks hellish, this actually moves incredibly freely considering how rusty it is. Oh geez, oh, let's hope that does not snap off, otherwise, well, actually saying that, we'd just be looking for a new bolt. Give it a bit of help with it, GT85. I think I literally need sponsorship by GT85. Not that much of a fan. Not saying I'm going to buy the company, but I do like it. This is stubborn. I think this is going to be a bit of a theme. I'm just looking at the brake pads, and they've actually got loads of meat on them. I'm thinking this is one of those bikes just been left outside, but actually didn't get a lot of use. That is what I'm thinking, and I think it's a good thought, which is good, because that's the feeling I'm getting. I just don't think it's been looked after. Simple as that, which is always good. Although the chain was down to about 75%, so it has done the mileage right enough. But maybe it's just cruising around though, rather than, because it's certainly not had a lot of braking. All right, grips are knackered, so I'm not even going to try and. They're actually on the other side. They're actually all. It's like they've gone hard. £1.50 a pair. So there we go. So brakes and shifters all in one, so that will make things a little bit easier for coming off. Yeah, same. These are actually quite nice grips. Reasonable padding, but as you can see on that side, knackered. So, and that is always, I find when you're looking at a bike and it's used, it's one of the things you can, your eyes go on to. It's probably like looking at a used car and then the seats are all trashed. I think it's the same with grips. It's the bit your hands on and what your eyes are going to go to. Right, bar time. Let's see what we have in here. I always find bar or headset seem to be the place where the worst is hidden. Oh, actually looks pretty banging in there, so I don't think we're going to have any issues. I will take this off, otherwise the bars will get jettisoned. Yeah, a lot of this just looks like, see how the mat is very matte? I think it's just all like sun damage. You know what I'm really digging all these spacers. I might cheekily hold on to those because they actually look really good. And this is going to be an affordable bike when it goes back to the library, so it will be sold on at a really good price. I mean, probably, I'm hazarding a guess, maybe about £80, which is, I don't know, about $100 odd, depending on your exchange. I know the pound is crashing at the moment against the dollar, that I have noticed. Sadly, don't know why, because of our, not elections, but we've got our budget coming up soon, and it looks like it's going to be a train wreck, so the pound is losing against everybody. Right, put these aside so I know what way that they go in. Like that, otherwise I'll be wondering it all later. Looking really good, I have to say. Look how clean that is. I mean, that's almost worth not even taking out. Do you know what? I'm not even going to take that out. There's absolutely no reason. I'll put some more grease on it. That is a bloody surprise, that is. Right, I actually decided to take it out anyway, because I'm just thinking I jet washed the bike. And I'm looking at the grease and it's got a bit of water in there. So actually I'm going to take these out. I'll give them a quick clean. I mean, there's going to be no issues there. And then we can fire them back in, and then we know they're absolutely fine. As always, just use the old GT85 and a bit of blue roll. Seems to work. And that way you're not like clartying up your rags. Stupendous. I mean, you can see that on camera, right? Look how clean that is. You know, I was talking about the sun damage, and you can see it there. See how matte that is. If I roll that round, see the gloss on the bottom and under the grips, and then completely matte there. That is just pure sun damage. I mean, you won't get that as much in the UK, but I'm sure in the US you'll get that a lot on bikes or cars or anything. I wasn't going to bother taking the brake levers off, but you know, I just thought, do you know what? Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just take them off, give them a grease. May as well do it right, because this bike is actually turning out that I think it's actually going to be a really good bike. And I think what we'll be doing with the frame, because the frame's in good nick, albeit dirty, I reckon I give this like a proper polish, and that's going to bring that up super shiny. Oh, is that the bloody do you remember that happened on the last build? Where the whole stem came out? I can't believe that's happened again. If that's just full of dirt. Oh no, that's it. Get the caps off. That was pretty easy. Wasn't slack, but it certainly did not put any fight up. Right, back to normal on the extraction tool after the last bike, which we had to improvise because of the type of bottom bracket that it had. There we go. Screw that in till it hits the bump stop, and then we can crank it with the Allen key, wrench, or whatever you want to call it. Oh, there we go. Just get that sudden relief, and then you know you're sorted. Yeah, see, this is all looking real nice actually. Even grease it. It's either been serviced at one time, or credit to Saracen, built a good bike. Right, now we've got the crank arms off. I'm just going to quickly take the pedals off. I'll most likely be reusing these because they actually look okay. They just need a bit of a clean up and a lube. The bottom bracket is a little bit dry. You can hear that. It's not like, you know, rough, because I wouldn't expect it to be, but if I can get it out and maybe get some grease into it somehow, then we can reuse it. There we go, that came out no bother at all. No bother. I think this is one of those plastic bottom brackets, which I'm not a fan of. Oh, well, just well we did take it out, but as you can see though, that's just from when I've obviously washed it, but you can see it's immaculate and it's still greased. Because this is something I see in brand new bikes a lot, budget ones. They just don't want to put any grease anywhere, and then of course the whole thing just rusts so quickly. A little improvisation is going to be required because the bearings are set, they're pressed in, we can't get them out. What I was hoping that it didn't have metal shields, it'd have the plastic ones, I could have prized them off and got some more grease in there. Now the thing is, There is it's not that it's rough, it's just a bit noisy, so it's obviously lacking in grease. There's not really a way we can get grease in, but I really would like to just use this bottom bracket because we don't like to waste stuff. So an idea that I used to use with freewheel hubs is what I do is I put them in basically motor oil or gear oil, whatever thickest stuff that you have got, and then I put them in my ultrasonic cleaner, and with the heat and the vibration and with this oil thinning, it goes into the bearings. Now it will mean that you've got oil in the bearings rather than grease, but it's better than them being dry. I'm going to try it and see how, because I've not done it on a bottom bracket. It seems to work great on freewheel hubs. It might not work in a bottom bracket, certainly not in the long term. But you know what, I'm just going to try out of total curiosity. Right, I haven't got any gear oil unfortunately, so I've just used the thickest motor oil that I had. But that's it in there. We're going to put it in the bag, and of course when that goes in the ultrasonic cleaner, the bottom bracket will be completely immersed. What we'll do, we'll just seal it so it doesn't spill out. All right, I'm going to remove all the little nuts and bolts because these will brush up real nice in the grinder with the brass wire brush on it. So we'll get all these, they're all over the frame, obviously all the bottle mounts, but there's a few other kind of rack mounts as well. So we'll get all these off and get them buffed. Right, I want to just get this frame right down and clean now. So we're going to straight in with the muck off as normal. Now I did get a comment or in the comments, somebody asked me, says, do you just spray the bike frame down with muck off and then leave it and then no more? They always look great. So it might have been a video where I forgot to film the part where I'm actually cleaning it off, but no, I do. So just spray it down with the muck off, let it sink in, and then we'll hit it with a rag and it's going to come up nice. But because this bike is black and they just show all the marks of the day, I've got some compound polish for real cars. It makes a huge difference, especially if you've got like a little drill pad for rubbing it in. I do have one, but it's a little bit big, but we'll give it a go. But that makes a massive difference on frames. So if you do have the time, you can get them off Amazon. They're like little foam pads. Go in a drill, get yourself some cutting compound, both over the bike, gleaming, and then you can just hit it with a polish after that. That's actually come up real nice. So we could in fact just leave it. I probably wouldn't need to polish, so I'm going to kind of see how I feel. I might just give it a going over with actual polish rather than like a compound to recut it, because it actually looks great. I'm going to take all the brake levers off this as well as they're going into the ultrasonic. We may as well just get them all in the one time. It'll also make it a little bit easier to come in and clean the forks. These forks work fine and there's no corrosion on the stanchion, so if I do service them, I'll be honest with you, I probably won't bother putting it on the camera or filming it, because I always end up cutting the fork services out because they're so time consuming and they do make the videos just way too long. And I always try to get my videos, if I can get them into the 49 minutes I do, failing that, it's within 59 minutes. That seems to be the magic spot with YouTube at the moment. Well, that's a bit interesting. What do you think? Is it meant to be like that? One longer than the other? Haven't come across that before. Yeah, see, these actually feel quite well greased. I think this bike, as I say, I just think the bike's been well put together at factory, so credit to Saracen. I know they had a bit of a bleak time in their history, but clearly when they built this bike, wasn't so bleak. So I've had the parts in there for half an hour, medium rare. Let's see how we do. I'll take these now away and wash them in some just soapy water to give them an additional clean. So the parts are all out. I've given them a wee clean, a dry with the airline. What I'm going to do now is going to start servicing the brakes, etc. Before I do, we're going to do the back wheel first so I can get the cassette off and I can get that into the ultrasonic cleaner while the fluid is actually, the detergents and that are actually still quite warm. So we're going to go to do the wheel right now. Oh, get the skewer out. I've had a wee play or a wee try, and the axle does feel okay. So hoping it's just going to be a wee courtesy grease. We should see it all done. Yeah, that feels okay. That's actually working all right, so we'll get this off. So I'm going to use my multi-tool I got off of AliExpress for this very reason, but I am going to need spanner tab. Right, good news, I've managed to loosen it off. So what I did, I used the impact driver on it, eventually clamped that in the vise, and after soaking with GT85, I managed to loosen it off. Cannot believe it. I'm really starting to think I was going to have to go down the route of another wheel, which I'm not going to show it in the video, but I spent about 3 hours filming the changing of the wheel and it just wasn't going to work out right. So I'm so glad I got this to work. Whew. that can go to hell. Of course, the problem is I put so much GT85 into it, I've cleaned all the lubricant out of the freewheel hub. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to ultrasonic clean it, and then I'll have to put it in the bag of oil to get the lube back into it. And also now it seems to have got my tool stuck in there. Right, so I've applied some grease onto the threads just to make it easier to get the freewheel hub off later. We've given the dort disc a nice clean so it can go back on. And then now back on with the freewheel hub. Go, and we will just give this a nice firm tight in, and that is almost ready. As well, we've got the skewer off. We'll give that a wee grease down, pop that back through. Right, so I'll just give this a truing just to make sure before it's done, and we'll be good to go. So tyres. Issue I've had, I cannot find any good matching used tyres of the right size. So what I have managed to find, I've found a couple of old stock. They're slightly narrower than the original, but it's a new tyre, but they're old stock ones, so they've already been made. And I think this is probably going to be the best option we're going to have for going onto this bike. Right, I'm going to try the shock assault method to put the tyre onto the wheel, see if we can get 2 bikes in a row with this working. And oh, whoa, well, there we go. That went on a treat. You know, I think this is my new go-to for getting tyres on bikes. Right, this is at the halfway mark. So we've got the wheels are all serviced and ready to go back on the bike. All the components, derailleur have given a service, brake levers all clean, everything all stripped and cleaned into the ultrasonic cleaner, and then serviced and lubricated where we needed. Bottom bracket also, that's come out okay. We've got enough oil in there to hopefully give it a second life. But what I'll do when the bike's all back together, I'll give it a ride and I'll really have a proper feel. If I have to change the bottom bracket, then I'll certainly do that. But let's get putting it back together. I'm going to put the opposite half of the bottom bracket in first. I just find sometimes it can just line them up a bit better. This is these plastic bottom brackets, which I'm not a fan of. I will totally honest, I'm not a fan of these at all, and it's a shame because the rest of the bike has actually been a bit of a surprise. However, the plastic bottom bracket is not. I've got a frame, I've got a B-twin frame lying around in my back garden. Unfortunately, the bottom bracket was stuck and this just totally chewed out. And that's it, there's like nothing I can do with it now, so I'm just not a fan of these. Now, is the bottom bracket something that you put back in first? Sometimes I look upon it, it's almost like the heart of the bike, the bottom bracket, and it's the first thing that I'd like to put back on when I'm putting a bike back together. What are your thoughts? Do you do that? Right, let's get the forks back in. So these, obviously we've given them a good clean and these are all okay to go back in. Get the bearings installed. These have all been greased up and ready. I'm going to grease the top cup. Right, and in the correct order. Rubber shim, spacers. Oh, come on, get on there. There we go. Stem and the retaining bolt and washer. Sat to tight. There we go. We'll align this properly later in the video, so we'll just nick these up just now, keep it straight. Now we gave this a strip and clean, well, we washed it in ultrasonic cleaner, and then I greased all the pulleys, oiled all the pivot points, gave it a wee clean down. Just get it sitting on its bump stop, so that is ready to go. There's quite a bit of engineering in these. I mean, Tourney TX, I'm not sure if this was a premium one in its day, but kind of all the pulley wheels and stuff, it's very shram if you ask me. Bit of copperies on the old nubbins. Stop them sticking on. You can use any oil, any grease would be fine, but I like to use copperies because it is actually metal, and it's a different kind of metal between the aluminium and the steel of the shaft. I don't put anything on the bolts. I don't know about this. I mean, I have heard people thread locking them on, but I know that they can seize, so I kind of just go on the fact that they'll be tight. Should be enough. What are your thoughts about what you put on? Would you put a bit of thread lock on there? I mean, I've even seen people greasing them to stop them seizing on, so there is that. So I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not thread locking, but I'm not greasing. So what are your thoughts? There we go. So I don't forget, I will stick the cap on now. That just finishes off, doesn't it? There we go. I'll do the other side. Right. Looking mighty fine. All shined up. Bit of GT85 just brings up the luster. What a difference that stuff makes. While we're down the back, may as well just get the brake levers on. Right, I'm just going to drop a little bit of oil into the workings on these just while I've got them off. It just makes it a bit easier to get into, but easily do this afterwards. What I'll do is going to put the pin in the middle hole. That usually always seems to work best. There we go. Alright, get these all back in now. So I've got two long ones and two short ones, and I can't remember whether the short ones went on the front or the back, or even why that is the case. Yeah, if you remember on the front brakes, one was short and one was long. No idea what that was about. This is the original derailleur, but as you can see, it works, but it's quite badly corroded. I think it's just going to overall drag the whole bike down. So the only spare one I have just now is this one. This one's actually been repainted, that's why some of the paint's coming off. But it's totally functional and will work absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one on for the purposes of the video, but what I'll do is once I get to the bike library on Monday, I'm going to swap this out for one that's not been painted. Just to kind of, because the bike's coming together so well, I don't want to kind of spoil it now. Right, so I want to get this roughly right before we tighten it up. I think I want to go down a wee bit because we're obviously going for 2.5mm above the teeth. Oh, actually that's just about touched the frame. We might have no choice to go a little bit higher than we need to, but that's okay. There we go. It works perfectly, just as I say, cosmetically, no so good. Right, we need to, before we can get these reused, we need to remove the cables. Doing the brake one's easy enough, because you just pull the brakes on, pull that out, and whisk that out. Unfortunately, we have to take the top off to get this one out, because you can't just push it out the back. It's held in quite securely, I think unnecessarily securely. So that's in there, see it tucked in there, and that is just a pain to get out. Oh, no, actually, we're on a winner there. It came out not too bad. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to leave the tops off just now, so we can put the shifter back on, put the cable in, and then put the top on. I'm going to put on this just to keep the bars in that straight. It just stops the whole thing wiggling around. Now I've got my grips, you know, nothing fancy, but absolutely, because the original grips, remember, they were knackered, but we'll need these to space the shifters. So shifter, brake that we'd already serviced, and my always go to bit of IPA. Remember, a bit of hand sanitizer wiped over would do the same job. Sorry if you can hear that. Someone is literally, it's been so quiet today in my street this morning, and then someone just decides they're going to blow some leaves around. Alright, same with the other side. GT85 to minimize it, but you can definitely see. I mean, if this was a high-end restoration, we would have painted that, but you know what, it's very cosmetic, and it's actually not that bad. So once again, I'm going to be reusing the cable outers, so I always like to give these just a freshen up, bit of GT85 over the bodies, and you can just work that in with your hands, and it just gives that black sheen to it all. Because these are fine. If I find that any have got a little bit of resistance, then I'll certainly replace them, but my experience is unless the cables that came off were really bad, they're generally okay. Right, we can now put the cables in. These are just awkward shifters for fitting the cables, I have to say, unlike anything else. There we go. And I'm just going to pop some oil. Just run that down, and then just use your finger to work it to the end. Right, grab one of the shifter cable housings. It doesn't really matter if it's from whatever side, because these are actually both the same length. Pop that in there, and then pop this into the frame. I'll just get this one seated, and then when we move our way down the end of the rest of the shifters, we can get all that tidied up. There we go. Wasn't quite lined up. There we go. And then once again, bit of oil on the cable. Letting that drip down. Let's work it in with our fingers. And this bike has certainly been a bit of an eye turner. It is looking good. And once again, just throw that cable over the back and we'll pick that up later. Right, brakes. Alright, cable in once again. Let's put that in now. We're going to need to, there we go, line our gaps up, because we've got the slot along the bottom, but to get through the last bit, we will need, so you got the slot there, and then there's another slot here, but we have to have them both aligned with each other, otherwise that cable is going nowhere. There we go, there we go. And it's a good idea just to twist them out, and that way it won't fall away. And then of course, oil on the cable. Down it goes. And of course we've got our brake outer stuck on the end there. Just give it a wee twiddle, a wee twist, and it'll go through. We're going to slot on our noodle just to stop everything falling off the end. So we've got a noodle, and I will just put on the grommet as well, the wee dust grommet. And then what we can do, we can just pop all this in just now, and obviously we'll be back to adjust it all later, and we can get all the brakes and stuff aligned. So this is just going to be here, just to keep it tidy. I'm not going to cut cables or even tighten it. That is just literally just touching the cable just to keep that in order. So back to the shifter, we can put it through its intermediate hose. This just takes it off again down towards the rear end. Pop that in there. There we go. And then, oh, I've got the wrong one. Right, we'll try that again. This is actually fractionally longer. I didn't notice that difference. So, anyway. Oh, actually I better watch that. Oh no, that's okay. No. And then under here. Yeah, there we go, running sweet. And then we can make the final dive towards the derailleur. In there. And we have that to go through this bizarre contraption of a derailleur. There we go. I'll run that through shortly. Okay, shifter for, sorry, housing now for the front derailleur. And here, there we go. Right, I've just had a realisation. I've completely forgot that this derailleur is a downward pull. The cable should be coming up from below to pull it down. If you look at the original one, see the lever is getting pulled up. Sorry, so it's stiff, I can't do it, but that is going to pull up. So that is the wrong kind of derailleur, and I think that might be the only derailleur I have. Let's have a quick look. I might end up having to use this after all. Right, I'm just going to whip this one off, and we'll just have to use the original one just now, and then, like my original plan, I'll see if I've got something nicer down at the library. Right, this is the original one. What I've done is I've given a good wire brushing on the bench grinder just to try and make it more palatable. And as I say, I will have a look for another one, because we've really made a difference, I think. Right, let's see, check the height. As usual, we want 2 to 3 mil above the chain ring, roughly. Go down a bit more. There we go, that'll do. There is a wee guide sticker on this one for lining up the teeth, but unfortunately with that plastic thing I can't get down and see it. So close enough is going to be good enough for now. Right, let's get that cable in. Right, see if I can get this in where you can still see. Right, so we've got a wee slot on the back. This is actually quite awkward under the plate. I think this derailleur can actually be a pull up and pull down as well. I think if you had the cable coming up from below and you routed it round here and then down there, it would pull down. I don't know if that's a feature or not, but that's the way I see it. Let me know, as always, down in the comments. Let's see if this will work. Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, that is a particularly good front mech movement. Very smooth. We'll get the rear one done while we're kind of halfway down here. Wish they would unify these things. I mean, the front derailleur, it's got a Allen key, and this is a bolt. Why do it like that? Is that in? I think that's in. Let me just try that. There we go. Right, now into the home run on the braking department. Let's get these sleeves on. There we go. Right, what I'm just going to do is, yeah, straighten that up a wee bit, because that felt a little bit tight going through. And back brakes can be a bit on the tight side as it is, especially if it's like a lady's frame. So we want to make that as easy as possible. Right, in with the noodle. Pop that in there. Unfortunately, normally I would like, this is a 90-degree noodle. Ideally you want one with a greater bend in it because it's the rear brakes. But unfortunately, I only had the 90-degree ones at hand. So again, I'm going to have to use that. It doesn't make a huge difference, but I just think there's less going on, less resistance. As before, I'm just going to nick this up and then we can get all that adjusted properly. Right, we can now start to make it look like a proper bike with wheels. There we go. Realignment wise. Nice. Nice. Right, up with the wheel. Right, let's hopefully this will ride into the dropouts nice and straight. Don't need any adjustments. Looking good so far. Get it, we want the bite at 90 degrees because you don't need insane amount of tension in there. Remember, it's just to stop it wheel falling off. There we go. While we're here, I'm as well just doing the brakes at the same time anyway. So I will just, because remember we didn't change the blocks. Actually the blocks were in good condition, which did make me think the bike had had little use, but it's a quandary because the chain was quite well used, so we're not really sure if the bike did have a lot of use or not. We'll just never know. There we go. There we go, both sides done. Now we can just take all the slack out. Well, I want to slack that off to get the slack out. So pulled up tight, and then I just want to relax my finger just a few mil, because remember, brand new cables and all that, so this will really need to stretch a bit. So what I do is just give it a really good pull. Whoa. Now that actually just dropped through slightly. I didn't have this tight enough, but actually it's given us just that little extra, because there was probably more than if I look at that, they're actually tensioned brilliantly as well. So that's actually a bit, I could probably do a wee bit more tension on this side. Alright, so same deal here. I want to get our brake blocks aligned, so we're just going to slacken them off, push the lever against, so the pad is against the rim, but you want to kind of make sure that it's flat against the rim. See, get a wee wiggle just to make sure it's happy. Push it hard and then just tighten up. What you also want to just double check it doesn't, as it goes round its travel, it doesn't quite touch the tire. You don't want that. That one's spot on, or spot on, it's close. I might actually drop that back down, but I'll see. Alright, you can now, like the front, take all the slack out the cable. So I want to pull that up till it stops. There we go. Pull tight on your finger. Give it a few mil to relax. Tighten it up, and then we can gun the brake lever just to get any seating out of it. See, just get that little extra. Right, we'll need to balance. As you can see, that one is moving more than this one, so we'll need to balance that off. I'm actually thinking that pad is maybe touching that tyre, so I'm going to lower it down a little bit, because we don't want that. You're going to get all sorts of noises and issues. There we go. I think it just gives it a little bit more room. Right, I'm just trying this angle so you can maybe see both sides of the levers. So what I want to do is reduce the tension on this side. Yep, see the other side now starting to play ball. There we go. Perfect. Right, I did forget one thing, of course. I forgot to put the covers back on. That wouldn't do well with that exposure. There we go. Truly are at the end, because we are snipping cables. Go. Just pop him behind there for neatness. Right, this one is definitely the most entertaining. We'll go at the back. Nice, fresh, brand new chain. I always remember, get it over that wee, there's like a little spacer in there, and you got to remember it coming on top, otherwise it will go on and then you'll make funny noises. You will not figure out where they're coming from. Where are we? I think we're obviously needing a bit of adjustment, but That is it on. A little bit of copperies into the threads. Right, original pedals going back on because they are absolutely fine. There we go. Stick that up. Right, that's going to make it a damn sight easier to index the gears. Right, let's see how we get on. Definitely got some ticking going. Alright, see, it's going to let that down. It was almost trying to go into the next gear. So I want to shorten the outer, so that'll take the tick away. Unless there's something else. That's what I'm saying, always give yourself a reasonable amount. I think we'll need to come back and revisit that. In fact, what we might find is, it's probably what it is, the bump screw is stopping it from shifting down. That should be this one, but it all seems to change. Give that a bit more play. This one. This is the bottom one. There we go. Now I might need to retighten that up again. Yeah, because I was slackening it off. So we need to put the tension back in the cable. A wee bit more tension. It's just a wee bit lethargic for shifting up. There we go. Ah, right, so see it was just starting to go over because remember I went and slackened off this one. So I want to just put that back down. But you see the screw moving across, that's obviously never been set. So we'll put that so it's just putting tension on it, and that way we can't, yeah, so I've given it too much, now I can't get to the top gear, so I'll just slacken that off a wee bit. No, definitely put too much, way too much. There we go. So even trying to push up even more, it won't do it. There we go. Right, front one now. This is always a little bit of a magic sauce. Oh. Well, I have to say that's absolutely working perfect. Well, it's shifting up, so what we need to do, we want to see if we can hopefully get, yeah, that's absolutely perfect. Because we're now at the top gear on the back, and it isn't hitting the inside, because this is the most common scenario, middle gear here and then just floating up and down the gears at the back. Sometimes people will maybe drop down to the smallest one for a crazy climb, but most of the time they're going to be in the middle. That's shifting absolutely perfect. You know what, I might actually leave that derailleur on because it actually looks fine now that it's on the bike and it's working perfect, so why tip the boat? Now remember all the frame screws we took out, all been buffed back, and then what I do is I just spray them with oil, GT85 once again, which coats them, hopefully give them a little bit of rust protection, but also as well it'll take a little bit of oil down into the threads. I mean, you can normally just grease the bolt before it goes down, which is probably a better idea, but that's the way I've done it. We're by no means going for contours, but you can see we've got a bit of chipping on here. Yeah, I could rather like wrap an inner tube around it and stuff like that, but I always just feel that doesn't look very factory. And I do have a black touch-up pen, so I'm just gonna touch it up. Oh, this is like painting by numbers. The only thing I will say with these touch-up pens is to put these rubbish brushes on the end. And of course what's happening as well is all the paint that was on the shaft of the brush is now working its way down. So you can easily get it where it all just goes too thick. It just takes your eye away from it. What I'll do is I'll go around the rest of the bike and just touch in a few bits that I've noticed. So the wheels are all a bit greasy and oily from when I was doing the wheel truing. Give this a wipe back just to kind of Obviously it's going to give the wheel the protection, but it just takes all that excess off. And I just think as well, again, it's something that my eye goes to on a used bike, is things like the conditions of the wheels. Pushes it off. And I'll do the same with the front. And that's us for another bike build. What did you think of that one? Didn't she turn out well? Testament to Saracen for making great bikes. There was plenty of grease where it needed to be, and that saved us a lot of work in the long run. Despite them having a bad reputation, I don't see why. The bikes actually was really good. Okay, we needed a few parts. Obviously we had some new tyres on there, some cables, but overall I would say this bike was actually a bit of a win, and it's going to be a good bike for like another 30 years. Either a teenager or medium-sized adult is going to have a great time with this bike, either commuting to work or firing down to school, or even thinking about a bit of shredding as well. Guys, we're just 20 subscribers off the 1,000 subscriber count. Really be brilliant if you could just get me over that mark. Also, your comments are awesome. You've got more experienced mechanics out there than I am, so keep firing down your hints, tips and all sorts down in the comments. I do read them all, and I try to respond to them all as well. I got a great bike coming up next week, so make sure you tune in for that one.